be talking about a lot of dimensions today, and it's going to be me and Jared both sharing. But I wanted to start out. One of the things we're doing this regards to is some really interesting things coming up on the planet, and I'm going to start out with a few questions, and then we're going to just dive in and continue to expand the energy and the possibilities. What if it was possible that the things that you really want in your life, the things that you really want to see come about, you actually want so much, or you really feel in your heart like this deep desire, because there's a you in another timeline that's actually experiencing that? Has anybody ever felt like you feel so connected to something or an idea or a way of being or a way of living, and you just can't explain it? How many of you have maybe looked at your family or your life and said, gosh, this just never felt right. Like I always thought there was something else or someone else that I was connected to, or I came from a different family or a different place, and just things don't seem like they fit in your life. And we're going to be talking about just an interesting perspective that seems to be opening up on the planet. And Jared, I'll ask you, any comments you want to share on both of those two opening thoughts or questions?
Yeah. So one of the main thing that we're going to talk about today is what is known planetarily as the Mandela effect. Now, it got its name. This actually came about fairly early on, around 2009. It didn't hit mainstream consciousness. It really still hasn't hit mainstream consciousness, which is one of the things that we're here hopefully to do, is help hit that 100th monkey. That goes back to those experiments where there were islands, and potatoes, yams were being dropped for these monkeys. And as they would get, these islands were, all over, separated obviously by water, and these yams would get sand all over them. And as these monkeys would go, they would only eat the ones that were clean. And so as they would get, as people began to, as they observed the monkeys beginning to wash the yams, as it became a phenomenon on one island, suddenly other monkeys on other islands began to do it. And so it reached critical mass on one island, and suddenly it became just, it was in the air, so to speak. And so that's what we want to kind of begin to take this a little bit wider. But it started on, believe it or not, just kind of a blog where people were talking about, and this writer named Fiona Broom noticed it, where people were talking about remembering Nelson Mandela having died in prison in the 80s. And somebody said, hey, that didn't actually happen. He's still alive. And people were like, no. And so they began to do some research on that. And sure enough, he was alive. And Darius has some really cool examples that he's going to be able to show you all. And so what people began to experience was, and what they began to question was, am I remembering this in an incorrect way? Or are we starting to actually begin to see the physical representation and manifestation of living in parallel multiple realities? We're very aware in quantum physics, and we're very aware scientifically that there are all probabilities, all potentials exist within the quantum field. And what we're beginning to see now is the fabric beginning to loosen, the weave beginning to loosen, and that light is shining through. And there are a multiple array of possibilities as to what might be occurring. So Darius has some examples to kind of start to show you what you are already experiencing, yet you may not have even been aware that you're experiencing these sort of phases in and out of alternate and parallel realities. So Darius, you want to show them some examples?
Yes, we're going to do that right now. So I'm going to jump in here, and here's one that I'd like to ask everybody about. There's a famous line that this person said, Tom Hanks said in the movie Forrest Gump. And many of you remember this movie, as I did. I remember seeing it. He said that life was analogous to something. And so here is Forrest Gump. I'm just going to position it. What did Forrest Gump say? What do you remember him saying? And I'd ask everybody to write it in the Q&A box there on Facebook. What did Forrest Gump say as you remember it in the movie Forrest Gump about life? We'll see what he said, what people are sharing. That life was like a box of chocolates. Okay, let's keep sharing. Life is like a box of chocolates. Okay. So Jared, I'm going to let you sort of do the unveiling, which is kind of cool. So when we actually go back and watch the movie now, what did he actually say, Jared?
So Forrest actually says life was like a box of chocolates.
Was.
Was life a box of chocolates?
I remember completely that he had said life is like a box of chocolates. There's even like the Academy Awards that year. There's, actors who are talking about it and sort of parodying it. Everyone is saying life is like a box of chocolates. There's interviews where Tom Hanks is being interviewed and he's saying that line and he says, is like a box of chocolates. Well, now what's wild is if you go back on YouTube or anywhere else and you look up that scene, it actually is life was like a box of chocolates. Was it always like that? This is the question. Was it always like that or did something change? Well, it's not just that. It gets even more interesting or weirder. So here's another one. So everybody kind of remembers this movie, right? Okay. What is this movie, everyone?
Risky Business, everybody.
Risky Business, okay.
I want everybody to think back to like the classic Halloween costume, the movie posters, when Tom Cruise comes sliding across that wood floor. What is he wearing? What is Tom Cruise wearing when he comes sliding across that floor? Do you all remember? It's like the most classic scene in the movie. So write in the comments box if you remember what he's wearing. Okay, Nancy never saw it.
Never saw it.
It's all right, Nancy. You live in a reality where apparently that was never a big movie. But
exactly.
So I remember even in college, we did something called date auction to raise money. And that was one thing every year we all performed. Yeah. Delana says, white shirt, socks, and sunglasses.
Right. And I'll share this, like, even if you look at like costumes online, that is part of the actual costume that they sell that people wear. If you go back and you look at, like college gag parties, like Jared's kind of talked about, you see like these girls are wearing the white shirt, the sunglasses. This is part of our collective remembrance of this movie scene that we all sort of shared a part in for most people. Now Jared, you'll kind of share that you go back, you watch the movie now, and guess what?
He's not wearing sunglasses. I don't even remember if he has the brush in his hand, but what he comes across wearing is a pink and white striped shirt. No sunglasses. All of the classic elements of that scene are completely gone. My mind is all blown.
That white shirt and no sunglasses. Strange. Why did it change? And we're going to go through more of these, but here's the question. Did the realities actually, like, were there all these realities happening at once? Did the timelines converge? Did we jump a timeline where now we're looking back in our respective past and something that we thought was a certain way absolutely changed? Here's another one. A lovable, beautiful family of bears. Who remembers these bears growing up? Or maybe you read this to your kids, as I read now to my kids. What's the name of this family?
And I will say, I want to interject here. This is actually the one that after the Nelson Mandela death, where and it wasn't just a few people; it was millions of people that remembered him dying. And so once this started out, this is actually the thing that took the Mandela effect viral, because this was something that impacted even more people, myself included, because I actually remember the moment that this changed in my reality from what I remembered it being to what it is now and what it apparently has always been. But I remembered it changing and thinking this is maybe just like a knockoff version. And apparently it wasn't. It was actually reality changing. So I'm
getting a lot of people writing in too with the answer. And this is the one.
So far, I see everybody writing in what my original experience was, except for Elisa.
Yeah, Elisa's saying it out loud. You know, this is the one that somebody said, you know, I never thought that I would just totally question everything about my reality, but a bear cartoon actually made me do that. So if you look these up, and I'd say everyone, look this up. If you can go find, you know, the name of these things and post a picture on Facebook, go ahead. But these bears are no longer, or maybe never were, Berestein bears, Stein. They're actually Berenstain bears, like a stain on your shirt, like a stain, Berenstain. When in the world did this happen? Like, what? What?
I can tell you, Darius, it was around 1984. I was checking out books at a church library, And I remember seeing Berenstain bears, and I remember thinking, this must be like, maybe the other one were the Jewish bears, and maybe this was the Christian version.
Right.
So I remember thinking it was like in my little 5-year-old head, that was, I thought, okay, this is them trying to change the religion of the bears. This is the Christian version of the bears. But no, it was the
We'll just
in this reality, it has always been Berenstain.
So we'll just show this full screen here. Which is it? Sorry for it being reversed. Is it the? Wait, how do I get this? Okay, is it the Berenstain Bears or the Berestain Bears?
Yeah.
Well, apparently now, to the questions of millions of people all over the world, it's Berenstain Bears. Now, here's another one. Or Jared, you have a few. Why don't I let you jump in, and then we'll do another one here.
I do, yeah. So this one actually, this kind of blew my mind as well, and I want to really quickly talk to you guys also about some of what you may, when you say, okay, well, that's kind of weird and wonky. Well, actually, okay, so how many of you, this one's not really like a happy feeling one, but if you can think back to the Kennedy assassination, think back to pictures of the Kennedy assassination, video for those of you that were there, watching it happen live in time. How many people were in the limousine? Do you remember? Do you remember the pictures? And this is one that also freaked me out, because I can remember history class. I mean, that was my first major in college, was history. So 4 people. That's what I remember. 4 people in the cab. Well, now when you go and look it up, there are 6, which is completely, I'll say wrong, but mind is completely blown. On a kind of funny note, the Village People have a 6th member. There are 5 members of the Village People. No, in this reality there are 6, and it's an army man. The 6th one is an army man. Let's see. I've got a whole list of just things that absolutely blew my mind. One of the things that you will notice, though, and I know a lot of people write in all the time and they'll say, Jared, I experience like random ear ringing. I've been to the doctor. I don't have tinnitus. They've ruled out TMJ. What is that? And, we know that sometimes when we're getting downloads or when we are sort of harmonizing with the universe, we can experience that. One of the things that I've noticed is, as I have experienced this, as a matter of fact, a woman who works for me, Colleen, she had an experience the other day where her 20-year-old nephew went into the hospital, went and had CAT scans, had all the work done. He was in the ER. He had a massive blood clot in his leg, had 7 other blood clots in his body. Darius, I told you about this one the other day. So he was seen by 3 different doctors. It was like a serious thing. They came back the next day and he didn't have anything wrong with him. And so we're also looking at the point of, okay, we know that miracles happen. Are we creating something new, or are we tuning into a reality? Are we tuning into a higher vibratory reality where we are actually allowing ourselves to come into harmony with that and experience ourselves, literally merging with something different? And one of the ways you can realize that's happening is you start to experience that ringing. You start to experience, it's almost like a reverse course of deja vu, where deja vu is like, I've been here in the past. I know what's going to happen. This is kind of a sense of, it's almost like a disorientation, yet at the same time, you know what's going on, but everybody just looks a little fuzzy. Everybody seems a little off. One of the things that I've noticed when things like this happen with me is my dreams get really, really vivid. I start to experience things in my dreams where I'm starting to process out kind of like holes in reality where my mental mind isn't comprehending it. So I wrote down a whole list of other things that, this is a good one. So I Love Lucy. Darius, do you remember what is the famous line that Ricky Ricardo, he would come home and what would he say to Lucy? Do you remember?
I think he said something like, Lucy, I'm home.
And she would do something like, this was the line, whenever she would do something, he would look at her and he would say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Do you remember that? Did you ever?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
In this reality, that line was never uttered on the show. That blew my mind, because that's like, if you start Googling like I Love Lucy, Desi Arnaz quotes, that is like the number one thing people remember is, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. What is the most famous line? Blank, blank on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all?
Oh, yes. From Cinderella, what did the evil queen
or Sleeping
say
Beauty?
to the mirror?
Yeah. So everybody write that one down.
Right.
blank blank on the wall.
Lania
on the wall. So that's what we all remember. Mirror, mirror on the wall. In this reality, and it has always been this way, if you go back, and yet we all remember mirror, mirror on the wall. Every single person on the broadcast is actually writing down mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If you go back and watch the video, and if you go back and look at anything that was in relation to the video, and again, I say in this reality because I say it that way for a reason. You'll find out why tomorrow on the call.
Yeah.
It is now magic mirror on the wall. It is no longer mirror, mirror on the wall. There's another famous movie quote is Wizard of Oz, when the witch says, "Fly, my pretties, fly." Very famous quote, right? Fly, my pretties, fly. Now it's fly, fly, fly. Wow. And so it's not always these kind of crazy, weird. There's even I remember growing up, my dad had he's a doctor, so he had a skeleton stuff, right? So I remember the ribs were unattached at the front, and the eye sockets there were holes in the back of the eyes. Well, now if you go and look at models of the human skeleton, all of the ribs are attached, and the eyes are almost completely boned in behind. So all of these interesting changes are occurring, which also shows that our bodies are physiologically changing as the vibration of our reality around us changes, which also shows that it is humanly possible to begin to change our DNA. So it's not just like, oh, okay, this is blowing my mind. Like, C3PO in Star Wars suddenly has, like you and I talked about, suddenly has a silver leg. No, that's not the reality any of us remember. And ironically enough, do you want to tell your story about the drapes?
I've got drapes at my parents' house from 1977, 78, when Star Wars came out, that are original from that time, that are still in an old room that my mom hasn't changed. And, C3PO, we kind of dropped that on you, but C3PO, as most of us remember in Star Wars, the taller robot. R2-D2 was the short one, he's the taller one, he was gold. Everybody that I talked to remembers that he was, all gold. Well, now, apparently, in this reality that we may have jumped into, he has a silver leg.
And Lena just typed in, "I've always remembered the silver leg." So see, there are people that remember it's always been that way. But this is where it gets interesting as far as things that physically cross over, because, sorry, I interrupted you, but.
No, it's okay. I mean, here's one. So we're talking about body anatomy. Where are your kidneys? Now, most people, I'll just ask, where are your kidneys? Are your kidneys here, or are they like here? Here or here? Now, I used to ride motocross as a kid, and I remember in the 1980s, you would buy something called a kidney belt. And the kidney belt would go right here around your waist, because when you were riding, you would, move up and down, and it would support your kidneys, which are supposed to be down, kind of right above your buttocks area, but just right there where your love handles are, kind of. Look up any sort of medical anatomy chart today, and now the kidneys don't seem to be down here. They're more like up here.
Okay, that's interesting to me, because everybody was writing in that they were lower, and I was sure you were all going to say upper, because that's where I remember them being from not. No,
I don't remember. I was not in that. I was not in that reality. Somehow we merged. Here's another one.
We came together to form one super reality. I love it.
I'll share, me and Jared were talking about this late at night for hours and hours, and we're going to share kind of what it might mean, because that's the whole point of tomorrow's call. I just want to bring this out into the forefront so people can maybe begin to question, as me and Jared have, that maybe the tapestry or the fabric of the reality you're in and the reality that you want to be in, or that is existing simultaneously to yours, it may very well be that this time on the planet, this fabric is getting very thin. This weave is starting to open up, and we're starting to see through the fabrics, kind of like you have a really dense fabric that you can't see through, but then you have some sheer stuff, like if you're in the islands wearing a really light sort of cotton shirt, you can see through it. Is it possible that we're seeing through these timelines and now they're converging or merging? So here's another one. Okay, you guys and girls, remember this scene. What is this from? Everybody, you can tell me.
Oh, Darius, everybody's saying your microphone is going out again.
All right, let me reset, see if that helps.
Saying maybe lower, but I think usually when we refresh, as
Okay,
everybody
are we
knows,
better?
Darius, yep, you're good. When Darius and I get together, the energy gets a little high in
Okay,
electronics.
so everyone, what is this from?
Empire. Kimberly got it.
Okay, so what does Darth Vader say to Luke? What's the big reveal? The thing that is like, whoa, I can't believe it. Just blew everybody's mind back in '82. Okay, good. We're working. What did Darth Vader say to Luke? What was the big reveal?
Okay, Lena, who also remembers C3po having a silver leg, she remembers the line this way. Maria, yeah, or Maria, yeah.
Yep, I am your father. I am your father.
Luke, I am your father. Luke, I am your father. Yep.
So keep sending them in. Okay. Now, if you go back and you watch the videos today, if you can find The Empire Strikes Back anywhere on YouTube, I've spent a lot of time looking for this. You might be able to find something different, but it actually right now is, no, I am your father. Now, this is a weird one because everybody remembers that it was Luke, I am your father. A lot of people remember it was Luke, I am your father. There's even video footage of James Earl Jones being interviewed after Star Wars was done and repeating the line, Luke, I am your father, and joking about it. And everybody like, yeah, this is so awesome. We love that line. Yet now when you go back in the movie, it's no, I am your father.
And he
was
even
James
says
Earl Jones wrong? Was he imagining it back in 1982?
Yeah, and he even says in one of those interviews, he says that the pivotal moment for him in reading that script, and he's going through it, and he's literally saying, when I read this, you can watch him say it. He said, when I read the words, I can't do a James Earl Jones voice, but he says, when I read the words on the page, Luke, I am your father, I thought, no, how are they going to get me out of this one? So I mean, another one like that is Sally Fields, who her name is apparently now Sally Field, but I remember it with an S.
Right.
But her famous Oscar speech, do you all remember what she said? And you can actually look this up. It's been Robin Williams did a whole stand-up act on it. It's been parodied in something like over 24 movies, and it's always the same line. And I can remember as a kid, like seeing it and going, "Oh, that's interesting." But do you all remember what Sally Field, we'll call her what she's, I guess the name is now, what Sally Field said in her famous Oscar acceptance speech? Any of you remember that?
We got Melissa.
Really like me, Sharon says. Melissa says, you like me. Anybody else remember? So the famous line, and she was like ridiculed in the press for this. I mean, it was, you can actually, and the weird thing is you can actually still find articles where people quote her as saying and make fun of her for saying, you like me, you really like me. But if you go back and watch it now, she says, right now you like me.
What in the world? We got a few people here. You like me, you really, really like me. Heather Jackson. Another person, you like me, you really, really like me. Patty. Incredible. So
yeah,
there's so many examples of this, and they're coming up more and more. I mean, the more you go down the rabbit hole, here's the wild part. The more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you actually will see more and more of these examples. And these are the ones that we actually notice in a really big way. There's people right now that we've heard about, like waking up thinking they had, let's say, like no kids, and then they just like, they have these kids, and they're like, for some reason, I had this memory of my life with like no kids. Or I had a memory that I had like a fourth kid and now it's gone. And it's like they can't figure this out. There's some really interesting examples. And I mean, this is where this Mandela effect has some interesting ramifications, perhaps, in what's going on with our consciousness, what's going on with our dimensionality, what's going on with the whole reality fabric. Are two worlds diverging or are they converging? And Jared, I'd like to get your opinion on this, because you actually, like, I was getting kind of like freaked out about it, and you shared some really profound wisdom on what you were plugging into from some of the higher realms, and what this might mean for people everywhere around the world.
Yeah, well, and just to kind of elaborate on that, there was I don't know if any of you remember this story. It was kind of a big one a few years ago. There was a guy who suffered massive brain injury in London,
Hmm.
and when he came out of his coma, when he went in, he was like a soccer guy. I think he was an actual, like, he played maybe Premier League, or maybe it was like whatever the minor kind of leagues are over there. Had a girlfriend, was kind of a very like masculine, just your typical kind of a soccer player or football player overseas. And he had a brain injury. When he came out, he spoke absolutely fluent French, was 100% gay. It changed his complete personality, yet was still the same person. Had his same memories with slight variations, but spoke a different language. And there are actual this is actually they think it's a neurological condition, but it
Hmm.
brings to light all kinds of new things where there are documented cases where people have experienced certain things where they black out, they wake up speaking a different language, and usually it only lasts for a week or two, and they kind of come back into their native tongue. But what if they're really tapping in or tuning into a wider dimensionality or wider vibration? One of the things that I shared with Darius was one of the things that we've all been working towards for eons of time is unity consciousness. We've
Yes.
all been pushing towards oneness, unity, all of those things. And so we know scientifically, and quantum physics is beyond a doubt proving it, that there are parallel and multiple realities. Now, as we are ascending, as we are expanding, as we are, going even back to the 80s, the 70s, I mean, way beyond that even, but the harmonic convergence opened up this space where it was kind of like all of these parallel realities. And as we have moved on in, even through, 2012, the 999 gateways, all of these things have been moving us into a space where now, what if what we're actually experiencing is unity with our other selves? What if we are starting to experience all of these sort of aspects where we are vibrating in that space of unity? What if all of the lower shifting stuff is starting to slowly but surely slough away, and we are starting to integrate and merge with who we are in all of those wider senses? What if we are actually opening up? And this is just the beginning. What if all of these things are winks at the universe saying, you are multidimensional and you are powerful and you have within you the ability to create worlds? And what if these are just little winks and nudges as we are starting to awaken to the potential that we have as human beings?
Hmm.
Just a thought.
Amazing. Amazing.
And there are other things as well. There are implications here. It's, are we misremembering? Are
Yes.
we able to recreate? If we're able to recreate in the moment, if we're able to recreate and create our future going forward, well, quantum physics would tell us that if we are having to focus on something in order for it to be true, then this also tells us that we're able to rewrite our past. And the Mandela effect is effectively showing us that, yes, as you move through creation and timelines, you're not just creating the present moment, you're not just creating the future, but you're also retroactively creating and authoring the past. Therefore, it is possible to recreate and create a new past. So there are all of these different sort of ramifications and options and opportunities available. And we're going to be talking about all of them tomorrow and doing lots of energy work, opening up, doing all kinds of things, and really getting in deeper to sort of the energetics around it, and also bringing in a few more examples that will hopefully blow your mind a little more.
Yeah, this is the first time that I've ever heard of that someone is going to be working through energy with this, and so people can actually experience it. And we're going to also be kind of working to collapse some timelines and maybe even go back and rewrite our collective histories. And I know I'm kind of stretching it a bit, Jared, like what we can do in that short window of time on that call. But as I was talking to Jared, he's like, well, what if the things that we're remembering actually, yeah, that was maybe an old timeline that was traumatic. But what if there was also a you that had an amazing life timeline, or had all of the things that you really wanted to experience growing up? Maybe if you came from a home that wasn't loving, what if you actually also had a timeline where it was a loving, nurturing home, where you were supported, you were loved? And what if it was possible to actually quantum jump, in a sense, or timeline jump into that reality and bring that into your field? And then what impact would that have on your future reality? It's getting very interesting, and we're seeing a lot of things shift. So I guess our big point was to open the dialogue, to open this up to the Facebook community and the world, because I think if humanity starts to really get this, we may all start to realize that this reality isn't as fixed and solid as we seem. And maybe at some level, with all of the tragedies on the planet that seem to be happening this last weekend in the UK and so many things going on, that maybe we can all realize that this 3D matrix that everyone thinks is so real, that people are clutching to and fighting for, and they're sending energy and changing thought about certain things and creating all of this, like, you know, storied agenda. Maybe we are all so much bigger than everything going on around us. And maybe we actually all collectively have the power to shift the timeline of the planet and choose the reality we want to live in. And that's the reason I believe this Facebook Live had to come forward. So I will, you know, we're probably going to take maybe just a few questions or comments, but I would ask, if you can, for just, let's really spike the grid. Let's really like unwind the matrix. Can you share this with people on Facebook? If everybody shared, and then everybody shared, we could really crack open this matrix so that humanity doesn't have to be in any way limited by one reality that they may be telling us, like, this is the only reality. And I think, no, there's multiple realities. There's hundreds of offerings. It's like going to the ice cream shop and someone's trying to tell you there's only vanilla and chocolate, and that's the only reality you live in. And you're like, wait a minute, but what about like bubble gum? What about pineapple punch? What about this? What about that? You know, what about mint chip? What about, you know, Rocky Road? What about Oreo? There's so many realities. We all have the power to do this. And I think as humanity wakes up, we're all going to begin thinking multidimensionally, multigalactically, and multi-timeline, and then choosing through our collective hearts what's the best timeline for us to live in a peaceful and a beautiful planet. So there's far-reaching consequences to what we are realizing we are. And Jared, I'll let you sort of share, and then you know, I'd love to take some questions if we could, and then just remind people we'll be doing some really wild stuff tomorrow on our live UAlter Evolution call. So watch for the emails for that. And also, please just share this. Let's share this and get this out there. I mean, let's just open the fabric of this matrix and bring it all into a space of love. And maybe if we do, humanity can choose the exact timeline, one of love and light, that truly is what our planet is meant to evolve into. And it may very well be that the reason this is all coming forward, like Jared said, is so we can take hold of the rightful power that we have over this matrix grid to move it into a place of love.
Yeah, and you're right as you wrapped up there, your mic just went fuzzy again. So we're interesting is we're blowing the matrix and we're blowing your mic. We choose to separate. And when we look at, okay, what is a miracle? So oftentimes when we think about experiencing a miracle, we look at somebody who's kind of at the end of their rope. We look at somebody who, you know, needs change, who is in that space and they need it or want it so badly that it's a space and place where they're ready, willing, and able to give up all of those other stories. You know, if you go back to, you know, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich that we can't fit into that heart space. We can't fit through the gates and into that kingdom because the kingdom is within. That's where it is. It's in that heart space. It's in that open heart, the ascended heart, the open heart of love. And so as we are letting go, and that's one of the things we're going to be doing on this call tomorrow, is really shedding a lot of those old beliefs, those old wounds, letting all of that go, sending it up into the light. And as we do that, we're letting go of attachment. And so when we look at, okay, people have been saying for eons of time, let go of attachment, be ready to release, don't go into resistance. That which you resist persists. All of these things, they're all gearing you towards the same principle from this space dimensionally so that you can ascend and move into the next phase, which is basically as you're ready to let it go, what you do is you open yourself vibrationally to the point where you can experience that miracle. What is that miracle? What if that miracle is you aligning with a timeline and a space where you are now ready to shift into another timeline? So in that moment that you experience the miracle, what if the miracle is actually you aligning with and moving into that different timeline, moving into that different reality? And so that's one of the things that we're going to work with tomorrow. So it's really everything that we've been teaching and talking about for so long, but explaining it now with science and with actual these sort of winks from the universe, where we're going, wow, my mind is so blown. I really am ready to kind of give up. And now I'm ready to embrace that I really am the change, and that there really is something bigger, and I am, and I have access to, and I am that presence. My I am presence, my connection to God, my connection to source is so much bigger. And that source is so much bigger than anything I've ever imagined. And I'm ready to play in that field and experience that field. And that's what we're going to be doing.
I'm going to ask a question. We're getting some cool comments coming in. If you could rewrite your history, or you could rewrite your timeline, or you could jump timelines, what would you choose? What would you do? And I'll post them for Jared to see, and just for the world to see as you share those in there.
I love that. Sharon wrote, rewrite healthcare issues. That was one of the things that I was actually thinking of. For those of you that know my story, I had a litany of them. And that was one of the things that, as I started kind of channeling the information and really putting it all together, that was one of the things that I realized was, okay, a lot of things in my past changed. And in a way, I felt like a whole new person. And I felt like, and we know this through law of attraction, as we start to focus on different things, we know that we will create a new energy field, and then the people around us start to respond differently. Well, in a way, that is right there experiencing a new reality. You're experiencing that parallel reality. So when I look back at all of those things, when I was bedridden, when I literally was so just afraid to even leave someplace, couldn't, be around people, couldn't be around groups, when all of that energy was just way too much for me to experience. And then looking at all of the issues with my heart, looking at all of the physical things that were going on with me, and then looking at where I am now and looking at where life is, it's kind of like, whoa, that really, there was a lifetime. And I've said this to Darius before, we've talked about, okay, well, what if you'd have stayed in that path? And I've said this on calls, I'd be dead. Well, what if that was the lifetime and that was the path I was going down? And in that moment of surrender and in that moment of vibrational change, I was able to start making those steps and leaps into this lifetime where, to be cliche about it, it's like, okay, can I lead my best life? Well, this in my field is what I consider to be my best life. And I'm always trying to live a better life. And as I do that, am I actually shedding old stories and aligning with a bigger, broader reality? So really start to look at that, of how much you're ready to expand into that new space, and how would life be different? And I know when we say, are you ready? Everybody says, yes, 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 I'm so ready. But start to look at, okay, what are the things that I want to get rid of? And ask yourself this one question, and this will show you where your resistance is. What if that one thing that you're wanting to get rid of, or those 20 things, what if they had to be there? And I think immediately we feel that in the pit of our stomach and we go, oh. But that right there shows you where you're still wanting to push away those things, and where you're still resisting that thing. And when you can get to a neutral space with that thing, those things automatically start to lift out. And so we're going to do a lot of energy work on tomorrow's call. So I really want to encourage you, share as much as you can, write as much as you can, the things that you're wanting to experience, write them in, let us take a look at it. And we're going to be really hopping into this tomorrow and in subsequent calls with me and Darius.
Yeah, I thank you. And I've been sharing some of the beautiful comments coming in. Got a bunch more. Bob said I would rewrite to know I am the power, the financial prosperity success that I am. Another person, they're just coming in so fast I can't keep up. Rewrite self, says Marie Aldrich. Thank you, Marie. We've got Kathy says, I am ready and willing and able to move into my best life now as I align with my highest self. Yes, maybe your highest self has its own timeline that's been operating concurrently with your life now. And in fact, I think that actually exists. And the disconnect we feel, the tension we feel, is that pull towards that alternative timeline. What if you could actually just jump into that timeline and then operate from that space without the tension? And honestly, you may find that the tension goes away, because then you are living your purpose and there's no need for that tension to be pulling you there. All right, we've got another person, Laney. I'd rewrite my beliefs about myself and embrace my divine, authentic self. Another person, Heather, I would rewrite from a past life where we never fell. I would surrender into acceptance in order to surrender old stuff out and better stuff in. Now that's a question. I know Melissa, I think she's asking Jared, we need to surrender into acceptance in order to surrender the old stuff and let in the better new stuff.
Yeah, and that actually goes to what, as everybody was kind of writing what their stuff was, start to play in the realm of, even if it's imagination right now, start to play in the realm of, okay, what if that space that I'm wanting to rewrite, what if I were given this amazing opportunity simply right now to rewrite it? What would that feel like? Don't go into what you have to do or be or have. Keep it real tight right now. Just what would it be like? And just take a moment to feel into that. So what would it what would it feel like? Because remember that feelings are really the gasoline in the engine of creation. They fuel that manifestation. So just what would it feel like to be free?
Yeah.
And a lot of you just went, that little breath, that space, that freedom, that right there was the key that begins to open the dimension, the door that lets you slide into that next reality. So the more of that space you can take, which is surrendering into acceptance. It's not even a surrender, because surrender kind of feels like, you've got me at gunpoint, I give up. This is more of, okay, I'm looking at, I'm seeing what I've created. I'm seeing that my beliefs, my thought process, I'm beginning to own it and take responsibility. This is really, I know this is really high level mastery stuff, but this is starting to put everything that Darius and I have taught for all of these years. It's really starting to put it now into, okay, I understand that I am the creation of me, my world, my thoughts. I'm really understanding how all of this plays in. And now I'm ready to say, okay, there are things in my life that I don't enjoy, I don't love, but I'm recognizing how I'm feeling about it, how I'm thinking about it. And I'm recognizing that how I feel and think about it may be the very thing that is keeping it stuck in my field. And as I open up to breathing and accepting and letting other people be sovereign and create their lives, and I allow myself the freedom from that space where I feel like I'm locked in duality or battle, that frees me up to actually transcend it and move into a new space.
We're getting some beautiful comments. I'm going to present another question real quick, Jared, to you. Is it possible that we jump timelines? So in a moment, let's say we hold the infinite space, the infinite possibility, what we want. We're really aligned to it. We're feeling great. We're feeling connected. Things are flowing. And then maybe an old idea comes up, or an old way of being, or something happens. Do we jump back perhaps to the old timeline and maybe at different points like flip-flop? Is that possible between these two alternative timelines? The timeline we want, the higher self-actualized timeline, and then the old self timeline maybe that isn't the way that we really want to be right now, or maybe the way that we really aren't.
Yeah. So I wouldn't call that jumping, but I would say that what a lot of people experience is kind of like a timeline phase. And I don't mean like it's phase 1, phase 2. I mean, they phase in and out. If you can kind of look at, if you remember from like math class or like transparencies, where people would kind of have something written down, they'd put something over it and you could write on it and it would kind of bleed through and it would look like it was the same thing on the projector. So if you look at reality as the projection of what's going on within you, we can have those spaces and places where vibrationally there are some things that haven't quite cleared out, or it's kind of like a computer that's still running two different codes. And so both of those windows are open at the same time and they're kind of vying for attention and space. And so what happens within reality is you'll kind of phase or vibrate between kind of both spaces. And so a lot of people will feel like, okay, I'm just stuck right now. That's kind of how that feels. And what's going on energetically is you're feeling that stuckness not because it's the universe punishing you or anything like that, but there is a deeper desire to make a decision, to make a choice. And that sounds kind of flip, but it really is that. It's okay. What is it? It's our own inner communication system going, okay, I'm going to kind of shut this down so you can really take a look, because there's all of these things going on. But if you will just focus in this one place, and when that happens to us, we start to, a lot of times we get so, I want to go here, I want to go here. But it's like, if you will just look right here and you will see, and it's like we feel like we're beating our head. but it's if we will just take a moment and say, okay, what is it? If I can just let go of needing to fix it or solve it, and say, this is what I actually want. That's the space that we start to allow. And you can feel that a lot of times in the throat or the high heart. That's the space where you start to allow those dueling or those conflicting programs to start to lift out. And whatever it is you're wanting to move into, that's where you can move into. But as you are moving through that process, any parts of your sort of being that are holding conflicting energies or conflicting programming will kind of start to fall onto that overlay. So you'll start to experience it again, not for punishment or you're doing anything wrong. It's simply going back and looking at your choices, because there may be some unconscious programming. There may be some choices or belief systems at play that in order for you to get to, again, that ultimate reality that you're wanting to experience, that it's now time to slough off and get rid of. And so, again, that's one of the things that we're going to be working with tomorrow, is really allowing all of these sort of parallel lifetimes that we may be connected to and not even know it. Okay, it sounds strange, but I'm going to kind of disintegrate with those and allow myself to fully integrate with the light. But as we do that, we're actually integrating with all that we are. So what we're doing is, it's not disintegrating any particular lifetime, but it's bringing all of our focus as source to the moment of right now, which really allows any peripheral parts of us that may be focused on those lifetimes to release, so that we are fully here, we are fully embodied, and we are fully at choice and connected to our star home, to our full particle, fully us as source. We are able to fully connect. Then we don't need to connect into anyone else, any other ideology, any other modality. It is, we are in that space of full connection, full being, full trust, full support, full just universal I am presence. That makes sense?
Yes. Yes, profound. So join us tomorrow. It's going to be a really great session, and we've opened up a lot of questions today, and this is good, because I think when we begin to question our reality, what if your reality wasn't so fixed as we all think? What if the future of some of the unsolvable things in this planet that seem to be so challenging right now, what if there's a whole other timeline that we can actually all resonate with in our heart and jump society and the planet as a whole to a whole different timeline when we hold that vision in our hearts? What if that was possible? What if the solutions to some of the world's biggest pressing challenges right now would come from a big timeline jump? And so the possibilities are endless, and we just wanted to make that little pinprick in the matrix bubble a little bigger today. That's all we're trying to. It's already been made by many, many millions of people who've been documenting this and questioning it. We're just going to make that hole a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And I'd ask you today, please share this so we can make this hole really big. And the more that we make these little pinpricks in the matrix bubble, I believe we'll all become free and see what we know in our heart this reality truly is. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Tune in. Please share this with the world. You can change millions of lives, and we can all begin to see what we really are deep down inside, which is one heart, one beautiful collective, one infinite being of light. We are all God. We're all God's source, and we are all worthy. So, Jared, thanks, man, for doing this and joining me and introducing me to this whole Mandela effect. I had no idea, and I've been literally just like, my mind's been blown for the last month about it. And everyone I talk to, they're like, oh, my God, you just like shook my reality. And, you know, made little pinpricks in their matrix reality. So it's happening, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. I hope you'll join me at Darius tomorrow. We're going to have a good time. I'll send a high five energetically to everyone, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And anyone that wants to post some goodbyes or thanks, we'll post those up. Beautiful Lania, thank you for this live presentation. Maria Alberts, thank you both. Lania again, Brigitte Gaspar, love you guys. Lania, I'll be on the call. Julia, thank you. A bunch more high fives from Elisa. Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. Please share this, and let's just keep pricking holes in that matrix bubble reality. We are free, and humanity is free. We are free. We are free. Let's make those holes in the matrix. Much love. Thank you, everybody, for being in my life. God bless. Much love.